Homeless human boy saved an alien billionaire's life with one completely unexpected act. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. Rain pounded the cracked pavement of New Detroit's lower sectors as 12-year-old Eli Porter huddled beneath the meager shelter of a shop awning. The threadbare jacket draped over his thin shoulders did little to shield him from the cold, but it was all he had left of his former life. The integration of Earth into the Galactic Consortium had brought many promises: technological advancement, economic prosperity, and interstellar opportunities. But as with many revolutions throughout human history, the benefits had not trickled down to everyone. The wealth gap had only widened, and those already living on the margins found themselves pushed even further to the edge. Eli had been living on the streets for nearly 8 months now. Ever since the factory where his mother worked had been fully automated with lithium technology. No severance, no retraining program. Just a final paycheck and a form letter thanking her for her service. They had managed for a while on savings, but medical bills from his mother's chronic respiratory condition quickly depleted what little they had. When they couldn't make rent, eviction came swiftly. His mother had found a bed at a women's shelter, but they wouldn't take boys over 10. Just temporary, she'd promised, tears in her eyes as they separated. Just until I find something. That was 3 months ago. Eli visited her when he could, but the shelter was across town, and public transport required credits he didn't have. The streets had become his home, the alleyways his bedroom, and garbage bins his pantry. Tonight, however, the lower sectors were abuzz with activity. A delegation of lithium executives was touring the city, part of a PR campaign to improve relations with the human population. Barricades had been erected along the main throughways, and security drones patrolled overhead, their scanning beams sweeping the sidewalks. Eli's stomach growled. He hadn't eaten since yesterday when he'd managed to scavenge half a sandwich from behind the deli. With security so tight, dumpster diving would be risky tonight, but hunger drove him forward. He pulled his hood low over his face and slipped into the shadows between buildings. The back alley behind Renzo's, an upscale restaurant that catered to wealthy humans and alien visitors, was usually a gold mine of discarded food. Eli had been coming here for weeks, timing his visits to coincide with the end of the dinner rush when the kitchen staff tossed out the night's unsold prepared dishes. As he approached the dumpster, a sleek black hover car pulled into the service area, its engine humming with the quiet purr that only the most expensive models possessed. Eli quickly ducked behind a stack of empty crates, holding his breath. The vehicle's doors hissed open, revealing 2 tall figures that stepped out into the dim light. Lithians. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with slender frames and skin that shimmered with a faint blue luminescence. Their facial features were delicate, almost elfin, with large almond-shaped eyes that could see into spectrums humans could only dream of. This pair wore the intricately patterned robes that marked them as members of the corporate elite. "This is undignified, Talon," one of them said, voice melodious despite the clear irritation. "Why would you insist on exiting through the service area? The main entrance has proper security protocols." The other Lithian, Talon, waved a 6-fingered hand dismissively. "Precisely why I prefer this route, Nivex. I tire of being surrounded by guards and cameras. For once, I wish to experience a human establishment without the circus that usually accompanies me." Eli remained frozen, barely breathing. He recognized the name from the news feeds that played on public screens throughout the city. Talon Vex was one of the wealthiest Lithians in the galaxy, the CEO of Quantum Sphere Technologies, the very corporation that had developed the automation systems that had cost his mother her job. "Your eccentricities will be the death of you," Nivex muttered, looking around with distaste at the alley. "This area is not secure. Humans of the lower economic strata frequently congregate in such places. You worry too much, old friend. What harm could possibly?" Talon suddenly clutched at his chest, his words cutting off with a gasp. The tall alien stumbled, leaning heavily against the hover car. "Talon." Nivex stepped toward his companion, alarmed. "What is it? Are you unwell?" "My Cardiovascular regulator, Talon managed, his voice strained. It seems to be malfunctioning. Nivex's eyes widened. Where is your emergency medical unit? In my personal shuttle. Talon slid down the side of the car, his breathing becoming labored. I did not anticipate needing it during dinner. I must summon medical assistance. Nivex pulled out a communication device, his long fingers trembling slightly as he attempted to activate it. This primitive human sector is interfering with the signal. I must return to the restaurant to establish a clear connection. Hurry, Talon whispered, his luminescence fading to a dull glow, a dangerous sign for a Luthian. Nivex hesitated only briefly before rushing back toward the restaurant entrance, leaving Talon alone in the alley. Eli remained hidden, uncertain what to do. He had no love for the aliens whose technology had upended his life, but the sight of any being in distress stirred something within him. His mother had raised him to help others, regardless of who they were. Slowly, he emerged from his hiding place and approached the fallen alien. Talon's eyes, a deep violet hue, fixed on him immediately. Human child, he gasped. You should not be here. You're sick, Eli said simply, kneeling beside the Luthian. What's wrong with you? My cardiovascular regulator is failing, Talon explained, each word clearly taking effort. It is a device that assists my primary heart. Without it functioning properly, my system will shut down. Eli frowned. Like a pacemaker? Similar, but more complex. Talon's hand moved to a small device attached to his robes. This controller should be pulsing blue, but it has gone dark. Eli examined the device. It was roughly the size of his palm, with a smooth metallic surface broken only by a small display screen and what appeared to be a charging port. The technology was far beyond anything he'd ever handled, but he recognized the fundamental problem. It's dead, he said. Needs power. Yes, Talon confirmed. But the charging unit is in my shuttle. Without it, Eli bit his lip, thinking quickly. What kind of power does it need? How many volts? Standard consortium energy cell. Equivalent to your 5 volts, I believe. 5 volts. The same as many human devices. Eli's mind raced. He had nothing on him that could help, but maybe. Hold on, he told the alien, jumping to his feet. I'll be right back. Without waiting for a response, Eli sprinted deeper into the alley, toward a pile of discarded electronics he'd discovered days earlier. Someone had dumped a collection of outdated devices, probably replaced by newer alien tech. Eli had been planning to scavenge them for parts he could sell to the tech reclamation shops. He dug frantically through the pile, tossing aside broken screens and twisted metal until his fingers closed around what he sought, an old portable gaming system. It was battered but had been working when he tested it. More importantly, it had a universal charging port and a battery that, if fully charged, should provide the 5 volts needed. Eli ran back to Talon, who had grown even paler, the blue luminescence of his skin now barely visible. I think this might work, Eli said, dropping to his knees beside the alien. He pulled out a frayed charging cable from his pocket, one of his few possessions used to charge scavenged devices at public power stations. With trembling fingers, he connected one end to the gaming system and examined the alien device for a compatible port. There, Talon whispered, pointing weakly to a small opening on the side of the regulator. The port looked similar but not identical to the cable Eli held. It's not the same, he muttered. Adaptive technology, Talon explained. Try. It should conform. Holding his breath, Eli inserted the cable. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, the connector glowed softly, reshaping itself slightly to fit the alien port perfectly. The display on the regulator flickered to life, showing a rapidly increasing power level. Color began returning to Talon's skin, the blue luminescence strengthening. His breathing steadied, and he sat up straighter against the hover car. Remarkable, the Luthian said, his voice stronger. You've stabilized the regulator. It's drawing power from your primitive device at precisely the correct voltage. Will it fix the problem? Eli asked. It provides emergency power while the regulator resets itself, Talon explained. In approximately 3 minutes, it should resume normal function. He studied Eli with new interest. You responded quickly and resourcefully. Many adults, human or Luthian, would have panicked or been too cautious to attempt what you just did. Eli shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. Wasn't that complicated. Just needed power. Sometimes the simplest solutions elude the most sophisticated minds, Talon observed. What is your designation, human child? My name's Eli. Eli Porter. Eli Porter, Talon repeated, the human name sounding strange in his melodious voice. You have provided assistance when others would not. I am curious, why did you help me? Many humans harbor resentment toward my kind. Eli considered the question. My mom says helping someone in trouble is just what you do. Doesn't matter who they are. A remarkably enlightened perspective, Talon said. Where is your mother now? And why are you alone in this unsavory location at night? Before Eli could answer, footsteps echoed down the alley as Nivex returned, accompanied by 4 Luthian security officers in sleek black uniforms. Talon, Nivex exclaimed. You appear recovered. What transpired in my absence? Talon gestured toward Eli. This young human ingeniously bypassed my regulator's standard charging protocols using a crude gaming device. Quite extraordinary problem-solving. The security officers immediately flanked Eli, their expressions suspicious. One reached for the cable still connecting the gaming system to Talon's regulator. Do not touch that, Talon commanded sharply. The connection must remain until the regulator completes its reset cycle. But sir, one officer protested, the human child could have. Could have what? Talon interrupted. Save my life while you were absent? Yes, that is precisely what he did. His violet eyes narrowed. Stand down, all of you. The officers stepped back reluctantly, though they continued to watch Eli warily. The medical team is on their way, Nivex said, still looking at Eli with undisguised suspicion. Cancel them, Talon replied. As you can see, the emergency has been resolved through methods they would never have considered. He glanced down at the regulator, which now pulsed with a steady blue light. The reset is complete. Carefully, Talon disconnected the cable from his regulator and handed the gaming system back to Eli. Your quick thinking has earned my gratitude, Eli Porter. Eli took back the device, acutely aware of how shabby his possessions must appear to beings who controlled interstellar corporations. It was nothing, he mumbled. On the contrary, Talon rose to his full height, towering over Eli. It was something quite remarkable. Now, you were about to explain your presence here and the whereabouts of your mother. Eli shifted uncomfortably. My mom lost her job when your company automated the factory where she worked, he said, a touch of defiance entering his voice. We got evicted. She's staying at a shelter across town. They don't take boys my age, so I'm on my own. A ripple of surprise crossed Talon's features. You are homeless? Because of quantum sphere automation protocols. Yeah, Eli confirmed. A lot of people are. A long silence followed as Talon regarded Eli thoughtfully. The other Luthians exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with this direct confrontation between their CEO and a victim of their corporate policies. Finally, Talon spoke. Nivex, adjust our schedule for tomorrow. I require a comprehensive review of our Earth-based operations, particularly the human workforce transition programs. Sir, Nivex appeared confused. The stakeholder meetings have been planned for months. They can wait, Talon replied firmly. It appears there are significant failures in our integration strategy that were not apparent from our quarterly reports. He turned back to Eli. In the meantime, this young human requires proper accommodation and reunion with his mother. What? Eli blurted out, unprepared for this sudden interest in his welfare. My security team will locate your mother and arrange for suitable housing for both of you, Talon stated, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Additionally, I believe your resourcefulness indicates potential that should be developed through proper education. Eli stared at the alien, speechless. After months of struggling just to survive each day, the sudden promise of help seemed too incredible to be real. Why would you do that? he finally managed to ask. Talon tilted his head slightly. You saved my life with nothing but a discarded gaming device and the ingenuity to use it. That deserves recognition. But more importantly, your situation has illuminated a failure in my company's responsibility toward the human communities in which we operate. His expression became solemn. I cannot remedy all the disruption our technology has caused, but I can address the case directly before me. One of the security officers stepped forward. Sir, we should depart. Remaining in this unsecured area is inadvisable. Talon nodded. Indeed. He gestured to the hover car. Eli Porter, will you accompany us? We can begin the process of locating your mother immediately. Eli hesitated, years of street-smart caution warring with desperate hope. How do I know you'll really help? That this isn't some trick? A reasonable concern, Talon acknowledged. Nivex, transfer 100,000 credits to a new account for Eli Porter and his mother, accessible immediately. Perhaps that will serve as a gesture of my sincerity. Nivex appeared startled, but quickly tapped instructions into his communication device. It is done, sir. Eli's eyes widened. 100,000 credits was more money than his mother had earned in years at the factory. Additionally, Talon continued, you will retain possession of this. He removed a small medallion from his robes and handed it to Eli. This bears my personal insignia. Any Luthian will recognize it as a symbol that you are under my direct protection. Eli accepted the medallion cautiously. It was warm to the touch and seemed to pulse gently against his palm. In our culture, Talon explained, to save a life is to become responsible for it. You saved mine, so I am now bound by tradition to ensure your welfare. But you are also responsible for the life you saved. A slight smile curved his thin lips. It seems we are now connected, Eli Porter. The concept was strange to Eli, but there was something about the alien's directness that he found trustworthy. After a moment's consideration, he nodded. Okay, I'll come with you. But we need to find my mom first thing. Agreed, Talon said, gesturing toward the hover car. Your mother's name? Sarah Porter. Eli replied as the vehicle's door slid open. She's at the East Side Women's Shelter. We will locate her immediately, Talon promised, following Eli into the car. The other Luthians arranged themselves around them, still looking somewhat bewildered by this turn of events. As the hover car rose smoothly into the air, Eli gazed out at the rain-slicked streets below. For the first time in months, he felt something he'd almost forgotten, hope. What he didn't yet realize was that his simple act of compassion had set in motion changes that would ripple far beyond his own life, affecting the relationship between humans and Luthians across the galaxy. The hover car soared through the gleaming towers of New Detroit's upper levels, a stark contrast to the crumbling infrastructure of the lower sectors. Eli pressed his face against the window, watching as they passed luxurious high-rises with garden terraces and landing pads for private shuttles. He had never been to this part of the city before. Your world has striking disparities, Talon observed, watching Eli's wide-eyed reaction. We have similar issues in Luthian society, though perhaps less visible. You have homeless people too? Eli asked, surprised. Not exactly homeless, Talon replied. But we have those without status or connection, who exist on the periphery of our achievements. It is not something we discuss in public forums. The car began its descent toward a sleek building that seemed to be made entirely of glass and light. As they approached, Eli could see that parts of the structure actually hovered, connected to the main tower by bridges of energy rather than physical materials. Quantum Sphere's Earth headquarters, Nivex explained, noting Eli's fascination. Designed to showcase our gravitational stabilization technology. They landed on a private platform extending from the highest level of the tower. As the doors opened, Eli was struck by the absolute silence. No city noise penetrated this high. Come, Talon said, stepping out of the vehicle. I have arranged for quarters where you can rest while we locate your mother. Eli followed the Luthians into the building, trying not to gape at the opulence around him. The floors seemed to be made of a material that rippled gently under their feet, like walking on the surface of water. The walls shifted colors subtly as they passed, responding to their presence. This technology, Eli managed. It's not like anything I've seen before. Most of it is not available on the general market, Talon acknowledged. Some is still in development. They entered a spacious apartment that Talon explained was kept for distinguished visitors. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city, now sparkling with lights as the rain continued to fall. You may use these facilities. Talon gestured to what appeared to be a bathroom, though the fixtures were unlike any Eli had seen. Clean attire can be synthesized here. He indicated a panel on the wall. Simply place your hand on the scanner, and it will create clothing suited to your measurements and preferences. Eli hesitated, suddenly acutely aware of his ragged appearance and the dirt that had accumulated after weeks on the streets. I don't want to mess anything up. You cannot damage these accommodations, Talon assured him. They are designed to be self-cleaning and repairing. Please, make yourself comfortable. I must attend to some matters, but I will return shortly with news of your mother. After the Luthians departed, Eli stood alone in the middle of the vast room, feeling oddly like an intruder despite the invitation. Slowly, he made his way to the bathroom, marveling at the shower that seemed to produce water from thin air, with no visible plumbing. 30 minutes later, clean for the first time in weeks and dressed in synthesized clothing that fit perfectly, Eli sat on the edge of a bed that adjusted automatically to his body weight. He kept touching the soft fabric of his new shirt, still not quite believing the turn his life had taken in the past few hours. A gentle chime announced Talon's return. The Luthian entered, accompanied by Nivex and someone else, a human woman in a simple dress, her face thin from stress but achingly familiar. "Mom," Eli breathed, jumping to his feet. "Eli." Sarah Porter rushed forward, gathering her son into a tight embrace. "Oh my God, Eli." She pulled back, examining him with tear-filled eyes. "Are you okay? They just came to the shelter and said you were with them, that you needed me right away. I thought something terrible had happened." "I'm fine, Mom," Eli assured her, his own eyes growing moist. "Better than fine. You won't believe what happened." Sarah looked past Eli to the Luthians, her expression guarded. Like many humans, her experience with the aliens had been limited to announcements of corporate policies that had upended her life. "Mrs. Porter," Talon stepped forward. "I am Talon Vex, Chief Executive of Quantum Sphere Technologies. Your son performed an exceptional service for me this evening, one that quite literally saved my life." Sarah's arms tightened around Eli's shoulders. "Is that true?" Eli nodded. His heart thing stopped working. "I used that old gaming system to jumpstart it." "A simplification, but essentially accurate," Talon confirmed. "Your son showed remarkable resourcefulness and compassion, especially considering that my company's policies have caused difficulty for your family." Sarah straightened, her chin lifting slightly. "We've managed." "You have endured," Talon corrected gently. "There is a difference. And it is a difference that has made me reconsider certain aspects of our integration approach on Earth." Nivex stepped forward, extending a data tablet. "As promised, the account has been established. 100,000 credits, accessible immediately. Additionally, accommodations have been secured in the residential complex adjacent to this building. The lease is paid for 5 years, with an option to extend." Sarah stared at the tablet in disbelief. "I don't understand. What is this?" "Reparation," Talon said simply, "in recognition of your son's actions. But it is merely the beginning." "The beginning of what?" Sarah asked, still suspicious. "Of a reassessment," Talon replied. "Your son has shown me that our company's approach to technological integration has been fundamentally flawed. We focused on efficiency and profit without adequate consideration for the human cost of transition. You're just now figuring that out?" Sarah couldn't keep the bitterness from her voice. Thousands of people lost their livelihoods overnight. "Mom," Eli murmured, worried about antagonizing their benefactor. But Talon raised a hand. "Your mother's anger is justified, Eli. Our impact analyses failed to capture the true consequences of our actions." He turned back to Sarah. "I cannot undo the past, Mrs. Porter, but I can alter our course moving forward. Beginning tomorrow, Quantum Sphere will implement a comprehensive review of all Earth operations, with a focus on human workforce transition. We've heard promises before, Sarah said. Which is why I offer concrete action now, Talon countered. The funds and housing are already arranged. Additionally, I would like to offer you a position within our organization, not as charity, but because we need human perspectives in our strategic planning. Your experience would be invaluable in helping us understand the true impact of our technologies. Sarah blinked, clearly taken aback. What kind of position? Liaison for Human Workforce Integration, Nivex supplied. A new division we are establishing under Talon's direct authority. You would help develop programs to ensure that humans displaced by automation are properly retrained and placed in meaningful new roles. And Eli? Sarah asked, one arm still around her son's shoulders. Educational opportunities of his choosing, Talon said. His aptitude for practical problem-solving suggests significant potential that should be nurtured. Eli looked up at his mother, watching the play of emotions across her face, suspicion, hope, caution, and finally, tentative acceptance. We'll need to see the details in writing, she said at last. And I'd want to have a human lawyer review any contracts. Of course, Talon agreed. Transparent negotiation is essential for building trust. Sarah nodded slowly. Then, thank you for this chance. The gratitude is mine, Talon replied. Your son has given me more than emergency medical assistance. He has provided a necessary perspective correction. The alien turned to Eli. Sometimes the most valuable insights come from unexpected sources. As the conversation continued, Eli found himself watching the interaction with a growing sense of wonder. In the span of a single evening, he had gone from huddling in an alley to standing in the penthouse of the city's most advanced building, witnessing what appeared to be the beginning of a significant change in human-Lithian relations. And it had all started with a simple decision to help someone in need, exactly as his mother had taught him. What Eli couldn't know yet was how far-reaching the consequences of that decision would be, not just for him and his mother, but for the entire relationship between humanity and the galactic community. The rain continued to fall outside, washing the city clean, as inside the tower, the first steps of a new understanding between species began to take form. 6 months had passed since that rainy night in the alley. Eli sat at a desk in his new bedroom, surrounded by holographic displays showing complex mechanical designs. The apartment that he and his mother now called home was spacious and comfortable, located in a mixed-species residential complex where humans and Lithians lived side by side, a rarity in New Detroit. Sarah Porter had taken to her new role with surprising enthusiasm. Initial skepticism had given way to determination as she realized that Talon was genuinely committed to change. The Liaison for Human Workforce Integration Division had grown from a concept to a department of 30 people, most of them humans who had been displaced by automation. Eli, his mother's voice called from the living room. Talon will be here in 10 minutes. Coming. Eli saved his work and dismissed the holographic displays with a gesture he had perfected over months of practice. The project was nearly complete, a redesign of the cardiovascular regulator that had malfunctioned that night, but with modifications that would make emergency power transfers easier and more universally compatible. It had been Talon's suggestion that Eli work on the project, partly as an educational exercise and partly because, as the Lithian had put it, the one who identified the flaw is best positioned to correct it. As Eli entered the living room, he found his mother reviewing data on her own display. She looked healthier now. The proper medical care provided as part of their benefits package had resolved her respiratory condition, and regular meals had restored the weight she had lost during their months of hardship. "How's the presentation looking?" Sarah asked, glancing up from her work. Eli shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant despite his nerves. "It's okay, I guess. Do you really think the board will listen to a kid?" "They'll listen to Talon," Sarah replied. "And Talon listens to you. That's what matters." She smiled. "Besides, you're not just any kid. You're the one who saved his life." "I know," Eli finished. "But that was just luck and basic electronics. It was compassion and quick thinking, his mother corrected. Don't downplay what you did, Eli. It changed everything, not just for us, but for a lot of people. She wasn't exaggerating. In the months since Talon's perspective correction, as he called it, Quantum Sphere had implemented a series of reforms in its Earth operations. The most significant was the Human Integration Protocol, which required that any automation project include comprehensive retraining for displaced workers, with guaranteed placement in new roles within the company or partner organizations. The chime of the door announced Talon's arrival. The Luthian entered with his usual grace, though Eli had come to recognize the subtle signs of stress in the alien's posture. A slight rigidity in the shoulders, a barely perceptible furrow above his violet eyes. "Good morning, Sarah," Eli, Talon greeted them. "Are you prepared for today's presentation?" "As ready as I'll ever be," Eli admitted. "But I'm still not sure why you want me to present this to the board. Wouldn't it be better coming from one of your engineers?" Talon settled into a chair that adjusted automatically to his tall frame. "My engineers would present a technical solution. You will present a human solution to a Luthian problem, a powerful symbol of what our species can accomplish together." He tilted his head slightly. "There will be resistance. Many on the board still view our policy changes as unnecessary concessions rather than mutual benefits." "Then why push it?" Sarah asked. "You've already done more than most corporations would." "Because it is insufficient," Talon replied simply. "The changes we have implemented are merely the beginning. What we require is a fundamental shift in how our species interact, not as benefactors and recipients, but as genuine collaborators." Eli exchanged a glance with his mother. Over the months, they had come to realize that Talon was something of a radical among his kind. His willingness to work closely with humans had earned him criticism from conservative Luthian circles. "The board meeting convenes in 2 hours," Talon continued. "Before we depart, however, I have something to discuss with both of you." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I have received a communication from the Galactic Consortium Council. They are interested in our integration experiment." Sarah frowned. "Interested how?" "The Council observes all developing relationships between established consortium members and newer species," Talon explained. "Humanity's integration has been proceeding more slowly than anticipated, largely due to cultural frictions and economic disparities. Our program has attracted attention as a potentially viable model for accelerating the process." "That sounds positive," Eli ventured. "It could be," Talon agreed. "However, it also means increased scrutiny. There are factions within the consortium who believe that humanity is not yet ready for full membership, that your species requires more guidance before being granted equal standing." "Guidance," Sarah repeated flatly. "You mean control?" Talon inclined his head. "A fair assessment. Which is why today's presentation is more significant than it might appear. The board members will not be the only ones evaluating our progress. Council observers will be present as well, though not visibly so." Eli felt his stomach tighten. "So this isn't just about a better heart regulator." "Few things are ever about only what they appear to be," Talon said, "particularly in interspecies politics." He rose from his seat. "We should depart. The transport is waiting." The journey to Quantum Sphere headquarters was silent, each of them lost in thought. Eli reviewed his presentation mentally, suddenly aware of stakes far higher than he had imagined. This wasn't just about impressing Talon's business associates. It was about humanity's place in the galactic community. As they approached the towering structure, Eli noticed something he hadn't seen before. A small group of protesters gathered at the building's base, holding signs with slogans like "Earth for Humans" and "No to Alien Oversight." Security drones hovered nearby, monitoring the situation. "The opposition grows more vocal," Talon observed, following Eli's gaze. "There are those who fear closer integration on both sides." The transport bypassed the ground level entirely, taking them directly to the executive floors. As they exited into a sleek corridor, Nivex approached, looking more harried than usual. "The board members have assembled," he informed Talon, "including Director Silvax." Talon's expression revealed nothing, but Eli had learned enough about Luthian physiology to notice the slight dimming of his luminescence, a sign of concern. "Who's Director Silvax?" Eli whispered to his mother as they followed Talon and Nivex toward the conference room. Talon's primary opponent on the board, Sarah murmured back. "He's been fighting the integration programs from the beginning. Very traditional, very Luthian first in his thinking." The conference room doors slid open silently, revealing a long table around which sat 12 Luthians, their tall forms draped in formal robes of various colors denoting their corporate ranks and divisions. At the far end sat an elderly Luthian with skin that had faded to a pale lavender, his eyes sharp as they fixed on the newcomers. "CEO Vex." The elderly Luthian's voice carried easily across the room. "How good of you to finally join us. And you've brought your human projects." Talon gave a formal bow. "Director Silvax, honored board members, may I present Sarah Porter, head of Human Workforce Integration, and her son, Eli Porter, whose innovative approach to emergency power systems will be the subject of today's presentation." Several board members exchanged glances. One leaned forward, her luminescence pulsing with curiosity. "This is the human child who assisted you during your medical emergency?" "The very same," Director Lorene, Talon confirmed. "And in the months since, he has developed improvements to our cardiovascular regulator designs that our own engineers overlooked." Director Silvax made a dismissive gesture. "Charming anecdotes aside, this board meeting was called to discuss the concerning financial implications of your humanitarian initiatives, CEO Vex, not to indulge in science projects by human children." "With respect, Director," Talon countered smoothly, "Eli's presentation directly addresses one of your primary concerns, the alleged incompatibility between human intuition and Luthian precision engineering. I believe you will find his work illuminating." Before Silvax could object further, Talon nodded to Eli, who stepped forward and activated the presentation interface. The center of the table illuminated, projecting a three-dimensional schematic of the cardiovascular regulator. 6 months ago, Eli began, his voice steadier than he felt. "This device failed, nearly causing the death of CEO Vex. The failure occurred because the system was designed with redundancies that all relied on the same power source." He gestured, and the schematic expanded to show the internal components. When that power source degraded, the entire system shut down. Eli touched the display, highlighting specific components. "My redesign separates the emergency backup systems and makes them compatible with a wider range of power sources, including those commonly available to humans." The schematic shifted, showing the modifications. "This means that in an emergency, the device can draw power from nearly any electronic device with a standard output." "Interesting," Director Lorene commented. "But how does this address our broader concerns about integration programs?" Eli had anticipated this question. "This isn't just about one device. It's about a design philosophy." He expanded the display to show a series of other Luthian technologies. "Many of your most advanced systems are vulnerable in similar ways. They're designed with the assumption that they'll only ever interact with other Luthian tech. But on Earth, and presumably on other worlds, that's not always the case. The boy suggests we should compromise our engineering standards to accommodate inferior technologies," Silvax interjected, his tone cold. "No," Eli replied firmly. "I'm suggesting you enhance your engineering to be more adaptable. That's not compromise, it's improvement." A murmur ran through the board members. Sarah stepped forward, seamlessly taking over the presentation. "What my son has identified is just one example of a larger pattern," she explained, bringing up data from the Human Integration Protocol. "When we include human perspectives in the design process, we discover blind spots in systems that were created exclusively by Luthian engineers. Similarly, human-designed systems benefit from Luthian precision and efficiency standards." She displayed charts showing productivity and innovation metrics. "In the divisions where we've implemented true collaborative teams, not just humans working for Luthians, but working with them, we've seen a 32% increase in novel solutions and a 27% improvement and system resilience. These are internal measurements, Silvax dismissed. Hardly objective, which is why we invited external verification, Talon countered, bringing up a new set of data. The Consortium Science Academy has been monitoring our collaborative projects. Their assessment confirms our findings. The integration is yielding results that neither species could achieve independently. For the next hour, the presentation continued, with Eli, Sarah, and Talon taking turns addressing the board's questions and concerns. Throughout, Director Silvax remained openly skeptical, while others showed increasing interest. Finally, Director Lorene raised a hand. I believe we have heard enough to make an assessment. CEO Vex, would you and your human colleagues excuse us while the board deliberates? Talon bowed again. Of course, Director. As they exited the conference room, Eli let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Did that go okay? I couldn't tell. It went as well as could be expected, Talon replied. Silvax's opposition was anticipated. What matters is how the others respond. They waited in a small antechamber, the minutes stretching uncomfortably. Eli paced the room, while Sarah sat reviewing notes on her tablet. Talon remained perfectly still, a Luthian meditation technique he had explained to Eli during one of their many conversations about cultural differences. Finally, Nivex appeared at the door. The board requests your return. They re-entered the conference room to find the board members in what appeared to be the final stages of a heated discussion. Director Silvax's luminescence had intensified to a bright purple, a sign of strong emotion among Luthians. CEO Vex, Director Lorene greeted them. The board has reached a decision regarding your integration initiatives. Talon inclined his head. I await your wisdom, honored directors. The board has voted 8-4 to expand the Human Integration Protocol to all quantum sphere operations throughout Earth territories, Lorene announced. Additionally, we have approved funding for the establishment of a dedicated Human-Luthian Collaborative Innovation Center, with Sarah and Eli Porter as founding consultants. Eli blinked in surprise, looking to his mother, who appeared equally stunned. Furthermore, Lorene continued, the board recommends that CEO Vex present this model to the Consortium Council as a framework for broader implementation across human integration zones. Director Silvax rose abruptly. Let the record show my continued objection to this course of action. We are compromising centuries of Luthian business philosophy based on sentimental attachment to a single human child who performed one simple act of assistance. With respect, Director Silvax, Eli spoke up, unable to contain himself. It wasn't sentimental. It was practical. Your CEO was dying because your perfect Luthian technology couldn't talk to anything but itself. That's not just bad engineering, it's bad survival strategy. A shocked silence fell over the room. Sarah placed a warning hand on Eli's shoulder, but to everyone's surprise, Director Lorene emitted the musical trilling sound that was the Luthian equivalent of laughter. Admirably direct, she commented. The human child articulates what many of us have recognized but hesitated to state so bluntly. She turned to Silvax. Our technological isolation has served us well in stable environments, but Earth is not stable. It is dynamic, challenging, and, yes, sometimes chaotic. These qualities, which you view as weaknesses, may in fact be valuable contributions to our collective advancement. Silvax's luminescence dimmed to a dull glow. You may come to regret this enthusiasm for human unpredictability, Lorene. Without another word, he swept from the room, followed by the 3 board members who had sided with him. Well, Talon said into the silence that followed, that was certainly dramatic. Is this bad? Eli asked quietly, making him angry like that. Director Silvax represents a perspective that exists throughout the consortium, Talon replied. His resistance was inevitable. But today, his view did not prevail. The Luthian turned to the remaining board members. Thank you for your consideration, honored directors. We will begin implementation of the expanded protocols immediately. As they exited the conference room, Talon guided Eli and Sarah to a private elevator that led to his personal office suite. Once inside, with the doors sealed, His formal demeanor relaxed slightly. That, he said, was more successful than I had dared hope. Really? Sarah asked. Even with Silvax storming out? Especially with Silvax storming out, Talon replied. His theatrical exit will be noted by the council observers. It positions him as resistant to progress rather than as a voice of reasonable caution. Eli frowned. So this was all political maneuvering? Not all, Talon assured him. The innovations you presented are genuinely valuable, and the integration programs have produced measurable benefits. But yes, there was a political dimension. He moved to a window overlooking the city. The relationship between our species is at a critical juncture. The Council is divided on whether humanity should be granted full consortium membership or remain in an extended probationary period. And which side are you on? Sarah asked. I believe that humanity has much to offer the galactic community, Talon answered. But more importantly, I believe in genuine partnership rather than paternalistic oversight. He turned back to them. What began 6 months ago as a personal debt has evolved into something far more significant. Your perspective has changed my understanding of what is possible. All because Eli helped you in an alley, Sarah mused. A single act of compassion, offered without expectation of reward, Talon confirmed. It is a powerful thing, more powerful than most Luthians understand. We have built our civilization on careful calculation and strategic planning. The concept of helping simply because help is needed is not our natural inclination. So what happens now? Eli asked. Now, Talon said, we build on today's success. The Collaborative Innovation Center will serve as a model for integration throughout Earth territories. If successful, it could significantly influence the Council's decision regarding humanity's status. That's a lot of pressure, Sarah noted. Indeed, Talon agreed. But I have confidence in our team. He glanced at a communication panel that had begun to pulse softly. It seems the council observers wish to speak with me directly. Would you both be willing to join the conversation? Your perspectives would be valuable. Sarah looked to Eli, who nodded. We're in this together now, right? Right? She agreed, turning back to Talon. We'll join you. Talon activated the communication panel, and a holographic projection appeared in the center of the room. 3 beings of different species, each wearing the distinctive insignia of the Consortium Council. CEO Vex, the central figure, a reptilian being with iridescent scales, addressed them. I am Counselor Thrax. My colleagues and I observed your board presentation with great interest. Honored counselors, Talon bowed deeply. May I present Sarah and Eli Porter, key collaborators in our integration initiative. The reptilian counselor's gaze shifted to the humans. Yes, the woman and the child. Your involvement is unexpected. Unexpected seems to be a theme with humans, Sarah replied diplomatically. So we are discovering. Another counselor, a being with 4 arms and crystalline skin, commented. Your species continues to defy conventional integration patterns. Is that a problem? Eli asked. The crystalline being made a gesture that might have been amusement. It presents challenges for our established protocols. The consortium has incorporated 17 species into our collective over 3 millennia. None have followed humanity's particular path, which is why we are here, Thrax explained. The Council is considering an accelerated timeline for humanity's full membership, based in part on the success of models like the one presented today. Talon's luminescence brightened with surprise. That is most unexpected, Counselor. The standard integration period is a minimum of 50 Earth years. Humanity has been in contact with the consortium for barely 10. As your young human associate noted, Thrax replied, adaptability is valuable. The consortium itself must adapt if it is to continue thriving. The reptilian's gaze fixed on Eli. We are particularly interested in this concept of helping because help is needed. It seems a simple idea, yet its implications for interspecies relations are profound. Eli shifted uncomfortably under the alien scrutiny. It's just something my mom taught me. It's not that complicated. On the contrary, the third counselor, a being composed of what appeared to be shifting mist contained within a translucent shell, interjected. Many species, including the Luthians, evolved with strong in-group preferences and calculation-based cooperation. The human capacity for spontaneous altruism toward out-group members is statistically unusual in the galaxy. Unusual and valuable, Thrax added, particularly as the consortium faces challenges that require novel approaches to cooperation. The conversation continued for nearly an hour, with the counselors asking detailed questions about human culture, ethics, and psychology. Eli found himself increasingly drawn into the discussion, his initial nervousness giving way to genuine engagement as he realized that these powerful beings were truly interested in his perspective. Finally, Counselor Thrax made a gesture that seemed to conclude the meeting. We have much to consider. CEO Vex, we request regular updates on your integration initiatives. And to the porters, your contributions have been noted by the Council. We anticipate further interactions in the future. With that, the holographic projection faded, leaving the three of them alone in the office. Did that really just happen? Sarah asked after a moment of stunned silence. Did we just help speed up humanity's membership in the galactic community? It would appear so, Talon replied, his voice betraying rare amazement. The Council rarely moves quickly on such matters. This is unprecedented. Eli leaned against the window, looking out at the city below. From this height, the divisions between the upper and lower sectors seemed less stark, the whole city blending into a tapestry of lights and movement. All because I helped someone in an alley, he murmured. Talon moved to stand beside him. One act of compassion, offered without calculation or expectation of return. A simple thing that seems to come naturally to humans, or at least to some humans, yet remains a learned behavior for many of us. He placed a six-fingered hand lightly on Eli's shoulder. You have given us much, Eli Porter. Far more than emergency power to a failing regulator. As they stood there, watching the city below, Eli thought about how much had changed in 6 months, not just for him and his mother, but potentially for all of humanity. And it had started with nothing more complicated than seeing someone in trouble and deciding to help. Sometimes, it seemed, the simplest acts could have the most profound consequences. We should celebrate, Sarah suggested, joining them at the window. This is a big day. Indeed, Talon agreed. I believe there is a human tradition involving a meal shared among those who have accomplished something significant together. Dinner, Eli supplied with a grin. Yeah, that's definitely a tradition worth keeping. As they left the office together, human mother, human son, and Luthian CEO, Eli felt a sense of possibility he had never experienced before. The future that stretched before them wasn't just about his life or even humanity's place in the stars. It was about what different species could accomplish when they recognized the value in each other's perspectives. One homeless human boy, one alien billionaire, one simple act of compassion. Sometimes, that was all it took to change the universe. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.